Hi guys, it's Emily from Novel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my April wrap-up part 2. And thankfully, the second half of April picked up amazingly. We started off the month with hardly any 5 stars. I will give you a sneaky peek. Guess how many 5 stars we ended the month on? Yes, a total of 12 5 stars. So that is 10 5 stars extra in the second half. And there is a booktuber that's got the answer to this, whose fault it is that I've changed the way I do my reading. And that is you, Charles Heathcote, because he has encouraged me that on the second half of the month, once I've got my TBR books done, to pick up not books that I want to shift off my shelves, but books that I'm passionate about, books that I want to read and become a mood reader. So now, the second parts of my wrap-ups are going to be a lot better because I'm going to go with the flow. My sister Charlie has got an answer for one of the books that I read on to end the month on. So thank you, Charlie. And the car boots are open. I am filming this on the 1st of May. The sun is shining in the sky. I'm about to go out. As soon as I film this, I'm going to go out to my first car boot of the year. Don't think I even went to one last year. With my little sister Vicky and my daughter. And we're going to go and have fun. May is going to be an exciting month. And I'm just alive again. So like I said, I've got to get this filmed because I'm going to go shopping, and let's get on with it. Let's tell me the stats. So sneaky peek to my book haul that's coming up next week is I bought 24 books this month, which for the first month the shop's reopening isn't bad. I got gifted 20 books. Yes, Charlie, my sister, you've got a lot to answer for on that, but obviously they will all be shown in the book haul. There is one book I forgot to put in the book haul, and that's the tandem book for a tandem read along, but I'm sorry about that. I unhauled 8 unread books, which you would have seen 6 of those in. You would have seen some of those in the unhaul in my try chapter video that I've done, which I'll link that video and the wrap up part 1 below. And I read 33 books this month, which, considering that I've got 3 books that I'm going to be finishing at the end of May, is not bad. I've read a lot of pages. The books I've read this month have been mahoosive. And like I said, I've got 3 books that I'm reading over 2 months. So that's going to be put that into perspective. 28 books of those were from my unread shelves. So my April unread TBR was 425. My May unread TBR is starting at 433. Yes, I've only gone up by 8 books, which, like I said, considering that this is the month the shop's reopened, I've read loads of books, but I've been reading bigger books. This figure is fan-friggin-tastic. I am over the moon. I am going to keep my book buying under control. I'm not going mad. I'm not going to the charity shop near me every week. I'm not going to my Vaz books every week. I am trying to keep my book buying under control. Now, enough about that. Let me show you the books that I've read. So I have got one book that is unrated, which I'll show you shortly. And I already had one book that was 2 stars, which I showed you in the first part. My unread book this month was I Did Tell I Did by Cassie Hart. I don't think that I can rate some non-fiction books, and I've decided that I'm not going to rate a non-fiction book like this. This is about a girl who got abused. And she's a woman. This is her autobiography, and the stories she tells in this book are just horrendous. It has got a lot of triggers, so if you want to know what the triggers are, go onto my Storygraph account. She's under Novel Novels, or my name, Emily Novel, and you'll see the triggers on that, because I'm not going to give them away now. Olivia, see, I listen to you. But there is a lot of triggers in this. Do not go into this book thinking it's going to be an easy read, because it isn't. The writing is beautiful, and what this lady went through is incomparable. I am not going to rate this book because of that. So that's the first book. I've just realised my bed is going to be jammed because I'm trying to get ready. I read 2 3-star books this month. No, 4 3-star books, and 2 of them obviously I'm showing now. The other 2 were in the first half. First one is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I buddy read this with the lovely Charlie from Charles Heathcote. It is a book that has been on my shelves for a while. I bought it at a car boot. I've heard lots of things about it. I had very high expectations for it, and I was scared by it, and it started off really well. I was like, well, why was everyone not liking this? And at the start, the pace was really good. We were only reading like 30 pages a day, which was a good pace for reading this book. And then we got about halfway through and it was like, no, dragging. It didn't end well. It was just a really flat, and I just, oh my God, there's again triggers in this for things that like racism, and there's words in this that shouldn't have been used. A lot of comments that I just found very offensive. The experience of reading with Charlie was amazing. It was our first buddy read, and I can't wait to read more books with Charlie. If you've not commented on me, Charlie, so if you're watching this, please let me know if you want to read the Brothers K, because that's Brothers Christmas, that one. So that's our next buddy read, hopefully. But yeah, I'm glad I read it, but it's one I'm definitely unhauling, and I'm not planning to pick up any more Donna Tartt books. Then I picked up another 3 stars, which is They Also Serve by Hilary Green. This is a wartime book, but I didn't realise it's second in the series. So when am I going to learn to check whether a book is part of a series? This is good. Wartime fiction. Again, it's very hard-hitting, but because we're halfway into a series, I couldn't really rate it. Has got a bit of diversity in it, which I liked. It's got some lovely characters that, yeah, that are really good. I don't want to sneakily give anything away, but it's got some good diversity. So wartime book with diversity in it is really good. So I did enjoy that book. It's quite good, but again, it's second in the series, so I can't really tell you much about that. Then I've got a book that I said I was going to rate 4 stars on my Goodreads and on my book thingy, but now I'm thinking I'm going to knock it down to 3 or 3.5, and that is Dream a Little Dream by Giovanna Fletcher. I think I'm actually going to change it to 3 stars because it's a good book, but it's a contemporary, and it's just quite cosy. It's a cosy contemporary book about a girl who, at the start of this, she's dreaming of a bloke that she was met when she was younger. And then sneaky peek is that she meets this bloke in real life, and it's their romance. There are some bits in this that are really emotional. There is a bit about there's again a trigger. I can't remember if I put the trigger in thingy, so if you want to know the trigger, let me know. But this is about romance. It's cozy. It's about this woman that stands up for herself, and she decides to go for her dream. And it's about making sure you know who you love, and it's a really cozy book. So another good Giovanna Fletcher. I definitely think her books are very good, cozy contemporary books. So that is, I would say, 3 stars. I'm going to change that to 3 stars. Did read 2 3.5 star books in the first half. Now I go on to my 4-star books. I've read a total of 8 4 stars. Some were in the first half, and I'll show you the ones in this half. So the first one is The Clippy Girls by Margaret Dickinson. This is about girls that were clippy, so they worked on the trams in the wartime. It's about 3 sisters, their mother and their grandmother, and how they're all connected. It's set in 1939. Obviously, all wartime books are hard-hitting. Accidents happen, things happen. There is also a lot about sibling relationships, which the sibling relationship part I loved of this book. Margaret Dickinson's wartime fiction are brilliant. They're cosy 4 stars. They are books cosy as in the fact that obviously the wartime, it's sort of standard sort of storylines like that. But the family element in this I loved, and I really loved the meeting. The sisters are very different, and there's the sibling relationships, there's the fighting, there's the disagreements, there's the very different characters, and I loved it. 3 sisters, obviously, me and my 2 sisters, so I love that. That was a really good book, but let's go to the charity shops. Then this book. I know that it's had some mixed reviews, some problematic elements in this, but I got given this by Chloe from Chloe Reads Books last year. In fact, it was pretty much a year ago today that I filmed this, that I got this. I'm filming this, and she gave it to me and sent it to me. It's a Rainbow Rowell book. Yes, I can see the problematic elements. It's YA contemporary, but I loved it. It's set in the 90s, and I really, really loved it. I feel guilty for loving it, but I do. Yes, you can see the problematic elements. You can see there is race elements in this. You can see there is bits about bullying and, oh my God, bullying and abuse. And there are some hard-hitting bits in this, but I really liked it. I flew through it, and it's one I'm actually going to keep because I really did enjoy it. So, yeah, that's my keepy. Thank you, Chloe. It was a really good book for me, and it was the right book to it was one of my last books that I finished this month. I'm glad I did. So thank you, Chloe. The next one is The 7 Streets of Liverpool, another wartime book. Yes, I tried to crack on with that. So In the darkest days of war, love shines the brightest, about the 7 streets of Liverpool. And I've just realised I've not been telling you the actual number of figures of the genres that I've read this month. I will try and put that note below because I think I actually read more contemporary. When you look at all these, you'll sort of see roughly, but I actually read more contemporary and then historical fiction. And I've got like a thriller, so I'm sorry about that. I'll try and remember to put those notes in there. Been a bit of a manic week this week. But this is set in Liverpool in 1942. Eileen is worried about the growing distance between herself and her RAF husband since he was seriously injured. Why does he so often stay in London? Again, you've got some really diverse characters. You've got some lovely characters that you know and love, and this book spans quite a long period of time. What I loved about this book, though, is that you start off in the start of millennium, and the prologue, Brutal in Millennium Eve, and you've got some characters that were in all of the book that meet up at the end. And you start off with them meeting up in London and Liverpool and how Liverpool's changed since the wartime. And it ends going back to the millennium. And that part I loved. So, very good, 4 stars. Maureen Lee's books are beautiful. It has got splayed edges, but needs to go to another home. Then we've got a book that I've been reading. Yes, it's counting in this month's figures because I ended it in this month. But I've been reading it over 3 months, and that's the Brontes, which I've been buddy reading with the lovely Tori from Hufflepuff Discovery. Thoroughly, thoroughly, thoroughly loved this. I am now thinking, oh, this is actually going to be 4.5 stars. I really can't decide whether 4.5 or 5. I think 4.5 is fine because there are some slower elements in the middle. But the size of this book, it's not surprising that it's 4.5 stars because you can't. This is the life of the Brontes, for crying out loud. Lives that aren't all explosions and everything else. I cannot recommend this book enough. I am lending it to Gemma. I say lending because I want this back because it's a book that I want to keep for life. This is about all the Brontes, not just Charlotte. So much is said about Charlotte and not enough is said about Emily and Anne and Bramwell and Patrick and their mum and their aunt. And this, you know, the history. You know, Emily Bronte's book, Wuthering Heights, is my favourite book of all time. But I will go and still repeat that Anne Bronte is still my favourite of the siblings. Not just for her writing, but when I read this book, her independence, the things she went through, the things she stood up for. As the youngest, she actually went out there and really stood up for herself. I love Anne Bronte. Emily actually turned out to be quite precocious in some of the things that I read about her when she went abroad with her sister. And I actually thought she was quite stuck up. Charlotte does my flipping head in. She is not the perfect lady that Elizabeth Gaskell writes about her. She's got a real attitude. And the way she is with her siblings, she definitely thinks because she's the eldest, she rules the roost. No, Charlie and Vicky, I am not like that. But, yeah, this book is amazing. Oh, I loved it. It's got pictures. We read about Bramwell. We understand why Bramwell went downhill. This book is everything and more. I always want to do another video on it because it is one of the best books. So, do you know what? I think I'm going to change it. Might change it to 5. Still don't know. But it's an amazing book. For a non-fiction book, this is brilliant. And I want to read more about the Brontes. So that is going to Gemma. So Gemma can read it because I know Gemma loves the Brontes too. My other 4.5 star book is a contemporary that's 4.5 stars. We've actually sneaky peek that in the 5 stars there is some contemporaries. But this is a lovely book. It's hardback, but it's one. Obviously, it's contemporary. I can't keep it. I wish I could. Not want to reread. But it's the second in the series about the Wild Girl series. I want to read the 3rd now. It's on my Amazon wish list, and I need to get off my bum and look for it. And this is about a girl who really she hasn't had it easy. She's a single parent, and this is a romance. But do you know what I love about this is there is romance elements in this. But they're also about the fact that she stands up for herself. You know, her friendships, she has some hard-hitting things. Her daughter is her world. And then we've got a surrogate mother to her who looks after her. And the fact that she doesn't want to go for a romance, she wants to focus on her career and her daughter. That stands out in contemporary books. It's way more than being a romance. This is really good. Again, there are triggers. I know these triggers are on my did I put it on my good story graph? Again, let me know if you want to know the triggers on this. There are triggers in this, so be warned. And there are bits that I cried, there are bits that I smiled. But considering how big this book is, I flew through it. Definitely a great contemporary book, and I would thoroughly recommend Louise Penton's works. Now, we go into 5 stars, and you know the question. Which out of all these 5-star books do you think is my favourite? I've got 2 favourites, and I'm wondering whether you're going to guess. I'll be honest, it was very hard to pick my favourites out of all of these because they are all absolutely friggin' amazing. Sneaky peek, by the way, I was lucky that if I haven't put it on Instagram, the lovely guys at Tandem sent me the last Tudor Queens book to read and review for you guys. And I've got my own like little proof copy, and it's beautiful, and I love Alison Weir books. So I'm going to start off with that. I've got the 5th penultimate book in the series, Catherine Howard, The Tainted Queen. Now, you guys know I don't know much about the later queens. Actually, if anything, I know probably least about Catherine Howard, apart from the fact she's a bit of a floozy. This book really does say she is a total floozy. I know she got beheaded, and that is still, considering how her age when she got beheaded is heartbreaking. She was so young, and considering, you know, you think at that age we all make mistakes, but the daft silly Wally made the mistakes for King Henry VIII. You're asking for trouble. She knew that Anne Boleyn got beheaded. She knew she was going to get into trouble, and she thought she could manipulate her way, and she didn't. And that, you're like, well, you asked for that a little bit. I wouldn't say asked to be beheaded. No one asked for that, but you know, you were a bit of a Wally. And at that time, you knew what King Henry VIII was like. He was a charmer, but he was a git, let's be honest. So this book is really good. You read about her life from the start to the end. She has a hard childhood, but so many people in Tudor time did. This book is beautiful. Love my copy of it. Love this book. Thoroughly recommend this series. So this is a keepy. Got 2 keepies there. The next one, I think I may be sending to Chloe. Chloe, if you like the sound of this book, please let me know, because I want to send this to her, because I love Chloe. Thank you for being a great friend to me. This is Paper Aeroplanes by Donna Porter. This is one of her YA books, and it's a story about friendship. And again, it's set in 1990s. What is it with my 1990s book? So in 1990s, are they contemporary? Are they historical fiction? I don't know. They're set in Guernsey. 2 schoolgirls, Rennie and Flo, are not meant to be friends. Thoughtful, introspective Flo couldn't be more different from extroverted, sexually curious Renee. What they have in common runs deep. And this is really, again, considering this is why, again, it's got very hard-hitting issues, some triggers in this. It's about friendship. It is absolutely incredible book. I thoroughly loved it. 5 stars. And I now want to pick up all of Donna Porter's work because I love this. I really, really loved it. I loved Lucky by her. And this is my 2nd of her book. And I just think it's brilliant. So that's another... So anyway, Chloe, like I said, let me know if you want this, because I think it's a very Chloe book. Brilliant. Now, I actually have a thriller that got 5 stars. Can you believe it? Me, a thriller, 5 friggin' stars. I Let You Go by Claire Mackintosh. I heard a lot about this author last year, and I think I bought this book in the works. I have got 1 more Claire Mackintosh book downstairs on my shelves. I plan to pick up more. It's my only thriller of the month, but I thoroughly love this. Talk about scary, though. It's scary in a way that you don't expect it to be scary, and I flew through it. A tragic accident. It all happened so quickly. She couldn't have prevented it. Could she? In a split second, Jenna Worlds come crashing down. And oh my God, this is good. With thrillers, I can't tell you too much, other than that there is twists and turns you do not expect in this. I did not expect the ending. I could not predict diddly squit in this book. It is friggin' amazing. Thoroughly love that. But because it's a thriller, I won't keep it, because I don't keep my thrillers. But I love this. Another extra book of the month that I read. I couldn't wait any longer. I could not wait. Guy sent me this for my birthday. Why Mummy Sloshed. I laughed from head to toe. This is the last book in the series. I've now bought the 2nd book, so I've got the whole series of this. And I plan to read the series from start to finish again very, very soon. And this is her last one, because it's about... She spent 18 years involved in her teenagers' lives. I thought it... And then this is sort of, as her teenager older, her daughter's about to go off to university, and at the end she does. And then she's got a teenage son who's taking his GCSEs, and my copy's in the... I don't want to batter this. This is amazing, because the bigger the kids, the bigger the drink. Don't know, as my kids are getting older, just because the challenges are different doesn't mean it's any different. But thoroughly love this. It's brilliant. Try not to get too excited about any of my books, so you can't tell which ones are my favourites, but they're all amazing. Now, the next one was my buddy read for Gemma from Read a Book Gem. This is Blackberry and Wild Rose by Sonia Velton. I don't know whether I'm going to keep this or not, because it was set in the 1600s and it's got, oh God, it's got some very hard hitting in the Huguenot era, set in Spitfields, and I don't think I'm going to keep it, because even though I love it, I don't think I'm going to reread it, even though it's 5 stars. When Esther Sorrel, the wife of a Huguenot silk weaver, rescues Sarah Kemp from a brothel, she thinks she's doing God's will, although Sarah is not convinced being a lady's maid is any better than being a whore. This is challenging. Again, it's about the fact that life isn't always what it seems on the surface. And just because you have money doesn't mean you have happiness. And there is a lot of lessons to be learned in this. I cannot decide if I'm going to keep this or not. So that's going to be that. But it is really good. I loved reading it with Gemma. Got my tongue tied this morning. But it's a brilliant book. Thoroughly, thoroughly loved that. Then we got A Quiet Kind of Thunder, which I read because Chloe had recommended it. I bought it last year. Steffi doesn't talk, Reese can't hear. They understand each other perfectly. Love isn't always a lightning strike. Sometimes it's the rumbling roll of thunder. Thoroughly, thoroughly loved this. This has got disability rep done so well. Reese's attitude for some of the problems he has because he's deaf, I can relate to. I'm only deaf in one ear, and I can totally relate to some of the fact that he gets so frustrated when he has to try and lip read. Something I found over COVID, where we don't wear face masks, because I do lip read quite a lot because of my hearing loss. The fact that I can't lip read has proven very, very hard this year. It's something I'm very much looking forward to masks coming out, because I can't lip read and I can't hear people, and the battles I'm struggling, I relate to Reese. This is YA, but this is done beautifully. Steffi doesn't talk. She's got selective mutism, so it's because of her own anxiety and traumas that she's had that she doesn't talk, and her coming out of her shell is really good as well. Love this. I also think it tackles anxiety and depression very well. That's another beauty. That is a keepie. That is a keepie, because I want Mia to read that. The next book my sister lent me, and it was the last book that I finished on the month, A Kind of Spark by Ellen McNichol. This has autism rep done on the best level. My niece has autism. I'll open it up. I think I'm allowed to say that. And when I read this book, all I wanted to do was give my niece the biggest hug ever and say, I love you, I'm proud of you. And as soon as I can hug her, that kid is going to get the biggest frigging hug of her life. And even though she struggles with hugs, she still wants to hug me. When she came into my work the other day for her eye test, we elbow bumped and I couldn't hug her, and it broke my heart, because that kid is my world. And this sums up autism so well, and her battles and what she goes through, I could see it all in here, and I related, and I just wanted to hug her, and it makes me even more proud of my girl, you know. So yeah, this is about a girl who's autism, and she's fighting to get. She reads about witches and about the fact they got tortured for being different, and she feels that because of her autism, she could have been thought of as a witch, and she wants to say that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be different. You shouldn't persecute someone. She stands up for herself, and I think she's amazing. Her relationship with her sisters, she's got one older sister that's autistic and has had her own battles with the autism, and then one sister who isn't autistic, and finds that because she doesn't necessarily understand her two sisters, she feels left out. And that's really interesting to read those relationships. Penultimate book, we got Property by Valerie Martin. My sister's going to have this because it's very good, but very, very hard-hitting. This is set in America's Deep South in the early 19th century, and this tackles racism to a core. It's a 200-page book. I flew through it within a couple of hours. Hard-hitting, 1,000,001 triggers that are on my story graph, but thoroughly well written, and one that I would definitely recommend to anyone that wants to know this. And then last but not least, Kathy Brownlee's A Patchwork Family. This got 5 stars because, do you know what? It's about the fact that family isn't just blood, and you guys know it isn't. I have got 2 blood sisters, I've got 1 adopted brother, and I've got 1 sister who is my surrogate sister, my sister's best friend, one of my sister's best friends, and that I've known since she was a kid. She's my kid's auntie. She's everything to me. She is my sister. Just because she's not my blood, she is my sister. And then I've got my booktube family. I've got my work family. I have other families that are not by blood, but I would say are just as important. And this is about that. It's about a girl who is a childminder, and she has her own hat. She's not close to her mother and father and her brother, but she has got family around her, family that live in her community that are just as good as important as family, just as important. And it's how they all connect together, and and it's building a house and a home. It's about building generations, putting generations together, how the elderly can help the young and the young can help the elderly, how we can communicate and how we can all support each other. Something that's positive coming out of COVID is that we've all learned to support each other in different ways, that we've all learned the importance of how important family and friends are, and how even just saying, hi, how are you, to a stranger, are you okay? Is there anything we can do? Reaching out to strangers, making a community is so important, which is why I love this book. So, give you a couple of seconds. I am amazed by the books that I've read this month. It ended on a high. I can't thank the book community enough for supporting me. Like I said, not having an easy time at the moment because of coming off the meds. I've got a consultant appointment this week where I'm going to discuss what I'm going to do. But do you know what? I'm going forward. The people in this community have helped me. Gemma's reached out to me so much this week. Nicole from A Beautiful Chaos book, she's been amazing. Chloe, so many friends that have reached out at a time when I need it. Let's come out, let's end March. We're going into May, where hopefully we're going to be able to do even more things. Let's go forward, but still remember the lessons we've learned over the hard year we've had. Let's be a community and let's end this supporting each other. So guys, enough chatting. What do you think my favourite book was? Let me know in the comments below. And now I'm going to tell you. My two favourite books of the month are A Kind of Spark, because of Bellman, because let's support autistic, let's support each other. Love this book. And then on the other half, because it made me laugh, My Mummy Slosh. Thoroughly love this as well. So guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling. And I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.